more to marketing. Welcome to More to Marketing, the podcast that explores marketing, product, and everything in between. I'm your host, Susan, and we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship today. I would love to introduce a legend in the entrepreneur space in Australia, Jim Penman. He is an absolute legend. While driving around Australia, you'll definitely see the success of his business and businesses because they help to make a difference for everybody, small and large. Personally, I've come across Jim's mowing, Jim's dog wash, and of all things, Jim's antennas over the time, because I've had little bits and pieces I needed help with along the way. And these franchises really make a difference. But there's not just three. There's over 50 divisions for franchise options, which is huge. And this all came about from a vision from Jim, who we're talking to today. So welcome, Jim.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Would you mind sharing a bit about yourself and your career?
Didn't start out to be in business. I went to university, started in 1971 with the idea of understanding the reasons for the rise and fall of civilizations of all things.
Oh, really?
Ended up doing a doctorate, and 10 years later found myself with actually no career prospects whatsoever. My idea was far too radical, far too different. I wanted to pursue them. I wanted to start a research foundation to pursue them in areas of epigenetics and so forth, but I didn't have any money. So I went into business, and the only business I knew was mowing lawns, which was my student job. So that's how it started. And it was this little lawn mowing business, one-man business originally, that was unexpectedly successful.
That's absolutely amazing. Such a drastic difference as well from what you studied to what you actually ended up creating and building yourself.
Yeah, the only thing I got in common, Susan, is that my thinking is unconventional. In terms of research, in terms of academics, I was very, very unconventional in my way of looking at things. Still am. In terms of the way the gyms works, very unconventional. I just don't do what other people do. I look at the whole thing and say, okay, what's the best way to look after franchisees? What do they really need? What do clients want? How do you look after them better? It's that sort of originality that's it's commonplace to my career.
The one thing I love about the ethos of your business is how you want to connect and keep that connection with customer so that they don't just stay with one franchise. They try all different ones as required because they have exceptional experience at all of them.
Yes, that's right. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's vastly better. To give you some idea of the difference, in pre-franchise days when I had subcontractors, I would get about every 100 leads, I'd get 100 complaints. It was that bad. These days, it would be a fraction of 1%. So it's more than a 99% improvement in terms of the service we give compared with then. And it's just gone steadily down. And as the customer service has improved and as the complaints have gone down, the leads have risen. So last year, we knocked back over 200,000 leads.
Oh, wow.
That's been a relatively quiet year, actually.
That's exceptional, particularly with all the growth that your business has been going through as well. That is absolutely phenomenal numbers. And to get down to under 1% of complaints, that is a huge accomplishment that you and your team should be so proud of being able to be part of.
Yes. We actually have to go out and dig for complaints. We use surveys. 10 days after the lead goes out, we survey the customer and ask them if there's anything negative at all. And even small things, that's a complaint and has to be dealt with. So we look for this. One of the greatest things that customers can do for us is to give us feedback, good or bad.
I'm a huge believer in feedback. Feedback is how you can improve not just yourself, but your business. And that's how you get to that next level.
Yes, absolutely. People have no idea how bad they are. Most people I know in business think that they give good customer service, but they just don't know. They're so blinded to it. We are very, very aware. I personally look at every poor survey done, and we're talking about thousands of years, every single poor survey I personally look at and deal with in some way. And obviously we're trying to get them to do whatever we can to satisfy the customer, which is the ideal. No matter what you did wrong, if you can go back, if you can satisfy the customer, then that's okay. And I also, if a customer has a problem that's not dealt with by the franchisor, second time they ring, they contact us, they put them onto me, and I will sit on that job. So I directly get involved with customer service.
And having such a small number as well must be so thankful for you to know they're doing such a great job that you're not having that volume coming to you.
Yeah, well, I tend to look at why we got so many. I'm never satisfied. I'm all the time looking at what's going
Mm.
wrong, and then we're developing some IT systems, some computer systems. I'm fairly confident over the next year or so we can cut that down by half what we're getting now by using better IT and
Mm.
then following up, making sure that when we give a job to a franchisee, that actually measuring that they're calling them and then being in contact. Are they
Yeah.
turning up? Are they calling back? Are they giving quotes properly? These kinds of things. So I think we can do a lot better.
Mm. Measuring is so important as well because how can you do a benchmark if you don't know what you're measuring?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, people spend a lot of money on marketing. They're much better off spending a lot more money on giving a better service, I believe. And then the marketing tends to take care of itself to a large extent.
Agree. I think one of the things I've come across in business myself, having run some telco businesses for the second biggest in Australia, was no one at one stage for some of the second tier brands, no one was really talking to the call center team to find out what was being said or what they think could be improvements. And to me, that's a gold mine. Get down to the ground roots, not just hear what the customers are saying, but also what the frontline are hearing, because sometimes they don't share it, possibly out of fear. They don't think they can share it. There's no opportunity to share. So I always made sure I had that open pipeline that every year I'd have a couple of different opportunities for them to send them all through to me. So I could see, could I improve the product? Could I improve the experience? What could I do to make everyone's life better? Not just the customers, but also my teams.
Yeah, that's right. I actually go into the call center every day of the week. Just go in there, look at what they're doing, chat with them,
Yep.
what's happening, and get feedback. You're right. It's very important. I think one of the big mistakes that business owners can make is they divorce themselves from the roots.
Mm,
I wander around my different offices chatting to the staff. I give my phone number and my email to every one of my franchisees and franchisors, which is well over 5,000 now. So,
wow.
and as I said, I'm in contact with customers as well, so I'm aware of what's going on. I don't actually do a lot of the management of the business. I've got people who do that kind of stuff, the finance and those kind of things, but I'm very much the contact person.
It's your heart and soul that's in it.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I'd love to understand. I know that this was a unique experience for you. You were mowing lawns, and you're like, oh, I think there might be something here. What inspired you to go down this entrepreneur path? Apart from money, of
Well,
course.
it's not really a case of going to entrepreneur class. When I was out there pushing a lawnmower around as a student in the 70s, I was already an entrepreneur because I was always looking at
Mm,
ways to do the job better.
okay.
So, for example, I was one of the first contractors in Australia to have a brush cutter because,
Oh,
and not no customer ever complained, but it used to annoy me that I couldn't get the grass from around the clotheslines and the trees and so forth. So as soon as I saw these things, that was in 1975, I bought it straight away because I wanted to do a better job.
mm-hmm.
And I was always looking at ways to pick up my grass more effectively and to saving at pace and getting around a tree faster and doing a better job faster, traveling between jobs in a more cost-effective way. I was always like that. I was always obsessively based on self-improvement. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't choose to go down the path. I was already an entrepreneur from the first time I actually started doing it. And I'm still the same today, every day of my life, including Christmas Day and Easter and every other day, Sundays. I'm thinking, how can we do this better? There's really no difference. The,
Yeah.
the, the difference is in the scale, but it's the same process.
So it's very natural for you to think of that. Let's improve, optimize. How can I reduce wastage? Let's
Yeah.
make this as fabulous as possible. I love it.
But I apply it to anything, Susan. For example, if I'm unloading the dishwasher, I'm looking at the most cost-effective way to do it. How can you download it with the least possible steps?
Mm-hmm.
And here's I'm taking the glasses out, for example. Okay, I'm taking the glasses out, and it's one step and turning it, and they go into the glasses drawer, and then back again like that. See,
Yep.
and everything, washing up or cleaning or anything I do has to be efficient. The way you handle emails, it doesn't matter. Everything is efficiency. You look at every stage, how you can improve it. That's the entrepreneur
Yep.
mindset. It doesn't matter what size you're at.
Mm,
The big difference between the top people and the others is that the best people are always looking at how to improve.
Mm,
And the difference between the worst people from the others, and most of our people are pretty good actually, so you're only talking about 5 or 10% who really shouldn't be in business. They're the ones that actually blame everybody else. They say
mm,
something's gone wrong. It's system's fault. It's the client's fault. It's Jim's fault. It's anything, but they don't look at themselves. So the more you look at what you can do,
mhm.
and the less you try and blame other people, the better. Which doesn't mean to say sometimes things are wrong. I've got some franchisees who are contacting me about their franchisors, and they've got real deadly gripes.
Mm.
This franchisor is not doing the right thing by them, and that's something that I'm getting involved in. But at the same time, the good ones will still say, "What can I do better?"
That's amazing. I think we're a bit of a kindred spirit there, Jim, in regards to efficiencies, even in the home. I'm so like that with everything I do in the house that I have two twins that are 2.5 years old, and their change table is literally like military precision of where everything is. I don't have to move. Everything is within just that one spot, including clothes, shoes, the lot, and even going to work in the morning. Getting the kids ready, everything is almost to a timetable of my kids know at 7 o'clock they're in the car and gone to daycare. There is none of this, like they're 2.5. There's none of this running around or anything. They just know because I've just got this precision in of this is what I need to do. This is my timing. I'm not wasting any time. Drives
Uh,
my husband nuts.
yeah, good on you. That's great. You gonna have any more?
No.
Well, at least you got two. Yeah.
That's
I've got 10 kids actually, but I wasn't giving birth to them, so I suppose it's a bit easier.
I think you may have had the bit of the easier end there,
Yeah.
apart from being the support person, which can be very hard as well. Uh, a lot of people look for gaps or problems to solve. What's been your inspiration along the journey for all these different verticals that you've gone into?
I find the world is bursting with opportunities. There's bursting with things that are wrong. There's so many mistakes that we make all the time, and the more you look into it, the more you see, and so many
Mm,
more opportunities to do it better. It's like there's a massive smorgasbord of potential improvements and things that you can do. It's frustrating actually, particularly IT, because we could never get enough IT done for all the things I have in mind. It
mm,
never happens fast enough. I have a sort of a dream as if you could have IT people and you put them into a time capsule where they actually time doesn't pass outside and they can simply go and do a year's worth of work and come out in a day.
I love that.
But it's, because there's always something that I want done that it
Mm,
won't do. IT is a very big part of our system. It's huge these days.
mm.
It always has been actually. The kind of system we run couldn't possibly be done without very advanced IT.
And that's one of the things you've probably seen a lot of opportunities with new technologies. Are you able to talk through some of those changes in technologies from like the 70s and 80s, definitely, that have now evolved all this time? What's really helped to evolve gyms to where it is today that you've actually seen from the technological space?
Well, the way we run things wouldn't be possible. We have a centralized call center and also online ordering. Now, you might put a job in that say it's a clean job for Doncaster. There might be 30 franchisees who could handle jobs in Doncaster, but we know which ones want it today. And
Mm,
we know also from that we think about who's the territory rights, which goes to first, and then we look at who's had the fewest jobs in the past few days. But there might only be one person who can take it, but we know that person is.
yep.
And then when the job's gone out, then that's responsibility of the franchisee to look after it. They pay a small fee, we call a lead fee, to get them an incentive to only take what they want and to follow it up, and then we survey the client. So there's a whole process that's highly automated
Mm.
in terms of making sure that customer goes to the right person and then gets looked after well.
That would be insane to do that back in the 80s. I'm having flashbacks of watching those murder shows where they have all the leads come in on the telephones and writing it all down, then trying to put it into some kind of filing system. That would have
Yes.
been insane to do this back then because that would have been the technology.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, when I started off, I spent 3/4 of 9 months actually getting contracts to do lawyers to do contracts. What I really should have been doing is just done basic contracts of some kind and spend my time getting IT organized. I really didn't know what I
Mm.
was doing. I mean, actually, when I look back upon my career, Susan, the thing that most strikes me is that I've made so many stupid mistakes, and sometimes quite recently too, even as recently as a year ago, I've made some terrible mistakes. You just keep on making them, and then you just look at them and say, "Okay, made a mistake there. How do I change that? What do I do next
Mm,
time? How can I learn from it?"
mm. And I suppose that would be almost every day, not necessarily everyday occurrence, but quite regular when you're in this space of pushing boundaries, looking for those opportunities, jumping on it. Is it the right time or not the right time? Is this the right technology, not the right technology? Are these the right people, not the right people? That I wouldn't be surprised if that happens more often because of the spaces you're now covering as well.
Yes. Though really, in a sense, it looks like we run a very diverse business, but in actual fact, the essence of what we do is quite similar. It's service to franchisees, first of all, service to clients. And most businesses, don't matter whether you're cleaning or dog washing or pest control or mowing, they're all very, very similar in terms of the customer experience and the software involved. We have what we call a divisional structure. So somebody would come to us and say, I'd like to do, I was talking to you this morning about Jim's Health, like doctor surgeries.
Yes, I saw you're on the lookout for new people for that service. Yes.
Yes, well, I believe in that very strongly. I've got a very strong commitment to health and wellness and stuff. And I think the current medical system is broken. So
Mm,
anyway, that was this morning at 10 o'clock. I was on the phone with this really amazing lady in Queensland, and she's got this software and these systems in place, and she's going down to do training hopefully in January. So that's just a new division that we could do. But the point is, I don't know much about. I know what I have a problem with in the medical services area and the way surgeries are run and the way that the charging is done.
mm.
But I don't know how to do it. But she obviously does.
Yep. Getting
So
those experts
that's
in.
the partnership. Same thing with Jim's Beauty, which is just launched. It was
Mm.
about 3 months ago. One of my franchisors rang me and said, "What about Jim's Beauty?" There was questions about what skills, what experience you need, what hourly rates possible. If we can't see at least $60 an hour, we're not interested.
Makes
And
sense.
it's now launched. Had 5 franchises in training last week.
That's absolutely amazing. And one of the things that I look at this is go, how do you handle the growth? How do you handle all of this? How, when you realized there was something here in Jim's mowing and all these other problems you've seen along the line, when did you know that you were onto something big? And then what steps did you take?
There's no sudden realization. It's just a case of doing what you're doing and trying to do it better. When I first launched the franchise back in 1989, somebody asked me how many franchisees I might have one day, and I told them if it works well, maybe one day 100.
If it
That
works
was
well, I love it.
I was very surprised that it took off in the way that it did, and even then, for some years afterwards, it didn't cross my mind as to what a great business this actually is.
Mm.
Look, in the early days, I basically I know had somebody interested in buying me out. I just didn't see the potential. Fortunately, I didn't go down that route. I just didn't understand. And it seems very pedestrian, things like mowing and cleaning and stuff, but they are massive industries.
Mm.
And I think it's a sort of the unglamorous end of the consumer market is often where there's the best opportunities.
I still remember my neighbor when telecom was going through its mass redundancies back in the 90s. He'd worked for telecom his whole life. He'd been like there for 35 years or something. He didn't know what he could do next. So he started Jim's lawn mowing in our local area. And I
Mm.
still remember the very first time he pulled up with the trailer on the back of his car, proudly showing that he was now part of that franchise. And it was just for me looking at, and I was a young girl at that stage, and I still remember it because it was such a moment. Because that's when I first got introduced to gyms, because there was Jim helping out someone who really needed a job but really wanted to do something good.
Yes, yeah,
And that's where I saw that growth start happening in the mid 90s.
yeah. Well, the secret weapon I had, I was when I started gyms, I was up against a competitor that had 250 franchisees. They were much bigger than me, more money, more experience, more everything. But I had absolutely a killer weapon, and that was a list of my current franchisees with their phone numbers. And I used to give that to everybody who inquired. I say, look, they asked me which is a better system. That's one like the other one. And I said, look, there's some differences, but here's a list of my franchisees. Go and talk to them and then get the other guy's list, which I knew they wouldn't give them because they wouldn't
Mm.
dare to. That strategy built my business because I did everything possible to make sure my franchisees were successful, including knocking back people I didn't think were going to work out. So I'd send them out on the road with a couple of my trainers, and they'd have to get a certain result to get in, which was not unusual. It's very unusual in the service industry, and great majority were very happy.
Yeah, definitely
And we do
make.
very well. It's like customers are no different. Our actual crucial, our most important clients are actually franchisees rather than the customers.
Mm. Because they
Now,
do
that doesn't
seem
mean
to
to
help
say
each other.
you don't look after customers incredibly well, but you
Mm.
do it because you know if you look after customers well, your franchisees are going to succeed as individuals and as a group. So the better the customer service we give, we know, for example, that we do surveys every year and we ask people what level, how they value their income. Is it good, satisfactory, poor? Now,
Mm.
typically it's about 51, bit over 50% good, about 9% poor, and the balance is satisfactory. Okay. But you look at that 9%, they're not evenly distributed. Franchisees who give great customer service are very much less likely to report poor income than those who
Mm.
give not so good customer service. So the better service you give, the more chance you've got of staying. Also, it means too, one of the things that we look at a lot is attrition rate. So if you look at a typical business like cleaning or gardening, if you go into that kind of business as an independent, and you can look at this up online, it's all over the place, your chance of still being in business at the end of 12 months is between 5 and 10%.
Mm.
With us, latest figures, 88%.
Mm. Oh, wow. That's a huge
But of those
difference.
who leave in that first year, now they don't leave because they failed. There are other reasons for leaving, like they could be health reasons or offered a better job or have to move, something like that. But of those who leave, their customer service levels are significantly worse than those that
Mm.
stay on. So again, great customer service is one of the best ways we can possibly help our franchisees to be successful.
It definitely shows it's a key metric in all those measurements that you're doing to ensure that they're at that level to have that future success. So you can probably call out the ones that probably need a bit more TLC along the way too.
Yeah, we do. We have an automated
Mm.
system actually that sends things like warning letters and complaints have to be followed up and franchise have to follow up, and then we have warning letters and breach notices if we need to.
Mm.
Doesn't happen very often, but if
You've got
people
it there.
continue getting complaints, you've got a process that you take them through. And if in the end they can't overcome it, then we part company. We say we can't give any more leads because you're not looking after customers well enough.
Mm.
And bear in mind, we're not talking about somebody who looks after no customers well. We're talking about a person who looks after 4 out of 5 customers okay, and 1 out of 5 badly, and that's completely unacceptable. The
Yeah.
top people are basically going to be 99%, 99.9% good.
Mm. I remember hearing in one of your talks, because I've watched quite a few of your videos and podcasts, etc., about even some of your franchises with franchisees when they go out, they might go into a type of community. So, say for example, Filipino, and they don't just they then bring about all different people from that same nationality to build out their little franchise that they've got, so that very quickly they grow and they see the growth as well in their business.
Yes. We're in the interesting situation of having, for most divisions, a surplus of work. So we really like people to build major businesses. The fees don't rise either, except they might pay slightly more lead fees, but the base fee is the same whether you're turning over $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. But the problem that franchisees have to grow is not usually leads, it's finding good staff.
Mm.
And people with an ethnic background have a big advantage because you'll have people who are new in the country who don't speak particularly good English
Yep.
that make very good employees because they're usually very hardworking and conscientious. So we had a
Yep.
lady who started a year ago and she's got like 13 employees in the cleaning division. But she's Filipino and they're all, guess what? More from the Philippines.
Filipino. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think that I've seen a lot of that out there as well, particularly even in painting. My house unfortunately went through defects, so I was seeing the painters, and I had to actually use Google Translate to talk to them because they were fantastic workers, but they couldn't understand what they needed to do because they hadn't been given a list. So I completely appreciate that you've got all this fantastic talent out there, but it's just about getting over that language barrier.
Yes, actually, really good translation will be such an enormous help too. We've looked at that actually. What we'd like to do is to have a system which is sort of theoretically possible, where where a customer could ring the office speaking Mandarin only and be spoken to somebody who's an English speaker
Mm.
and be understood. It's not quite good enough yet, but I was just thinking about it this morning. We got a bit of a report back, but that's very powerful stuff. If you could do it, it'd be amazing.
It would be 100%. And one of the other things I'd love to touch on is you've invested so much in your franchisees that you actually have your own compound. Am I right that I was watching a video and you actually have a place down in Melbourne where they can go
Yeah.
and learn, and you've got beds for them to stay in, like rooms, and then you've also got
Yeah.
an auditorium to teach in. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
bit more about that strategy behind how you've been training everyone up and keeping them part of the family?
Yeah, that's right. 20 years ago, we bought this site in Muralbach. It's an old university campus,
Ah,
and
that makes
some
sense.
we still haven't completely used all the rooms there. But what we've done is built accommodation, so they can now fit 96 different rooms in. So every third week we come in, and there's lots and lots of trainees, and they can stay on site and they can eat. And we have a buffet meal, which is pretty nice actually. And then I wander around and talk to the trainees, trying to get to know them, because I find if I meet them during training, they're more likely to contact me if they need to. So it's very
Mm.
exciting actually. We just had it last weekend. It's a great buzz, and the food's pretty good too.
Or one day you never know, I might be down there trying some.
Well, you should come and do our training course sometime. It's really quite eye-opening as to how business runs. You're
Mm.
very welcome to. We don't restrict it to people who are necessarily going to be franchisees. Though on the other hand, you might get tempted while you're there.
You never know. And also with your different mindset on how to approach this, I think that would be amazing information to learn, because I'm already, my eyes are already open talking to you now about how you actually came about doing gyms, which is brilliant. With entrepreneurship, we know that there's lots of risks and rewards. You've already touched on this a little bit, that there's some regrets, but what are some of your key lessons that you've learned along the way?
The hardest thing for me is finding good people, especially at a senior level. On the whole, I got very good staff. Like the first IT guys I've ever signed is still with me, a guy called Stuart,
I love that.
acronym fanatic and so forth. But he's been with me for over 20 years, like 25 years. So we really try and keep staff on, but finding people who are at the senior level has been a big struggle.
Mm.
Got some wonderful team of managers now. My COO, Rocky, and finance manager and HR and in-house lawyer. So I've got very good people, but that's been the biggest struggle. At a certain time, I was reluctant to pay as much as I should have.
Mhm.
Once you start paying sort of $250,000 a year type of salary, you can get much better people. So
Yeah.
that was a big mistake that I made for many years.
Mm.
Um, the thing of it is about me is I'm not actually one of my advantages in business. I'm not actually good at doing most things. I'm not a particularly good manager, not great with figures, and not even great with marketing and social media. So therefore, I hire people who are good at the things that I'm not good at, and I focus on the very few things that I can do, which is to do with new ideas and the ethos,
Mm.
the values of the business, and also speaking in public like this. Right? So there's certain things that I can do quite well, but most things I can't. And I think one of the problems some of the most capable people have is that they can do everything well themselves. So it's hard to find somebody who can do anything better, so they don't tend to grow. Whereas because I know I'm so bad at doing most things, I always got to find somebody else.
I think
Problem
it's
with that, sometimes I pick the wrong person. In fact, very often, so that's doesn't work out so well. But in the long run, you gradually get great people around you.
Mm. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for a lot of people, as you mentioned, understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Mm.
And if you are just average, yeah, you can get it done. But is there a way to do it better, smarter, faster with someone else?
Yeah. Look, the studies they've done in America showed that the people who are most successful aren't the people who are at the top of their class. They tend to be fairly average. The ones who are really good at what they do tend to go on to become the very specialist quants and
Mm.
lawyers and accountants and that kind of people. But the entrepreneurs tend to be the middle ranking people like
Mm.
myself. not good at, not brilliant at doing particularly anything, but just the kind of mindset. A lot of it's got to do with resilience too, Susan. Some people get very down. If you're going to be in business, you've got to be very tough. And if things go wrong, I have this sort of, I just bounce back. I just look at,
Mm.
okay, that was a mistake. That went wrong. What do I do? We're now running short of money. How do we solve it? What do we do? Never get flustered. And always make decisions and just say, okay, mistakes made. Don't do it again. Try not
Yep.
to. Do this one. Now do this. Now do this. Now do this. And you just do a whole stack of things, and things start coming right. I do that again and again.
I agree. It's about try, test, and learn. See where you can improve. See where there's optimizations, and as long as you've still got momentum and going, it's so important.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
There's always something else to do. The
mm,
biggest mistake you can ever make is to think you're good enough. And you can never be good enough. Never. We used to have one of my very early offices, we had it was in a row of shops. Originally we had one tiny shop, and then we just grew and grew and grew. But the anchor tenant at the end of this little row of shop was a milk bar. And I used to go in there, and he was always complaining about that it was so unfair that there was these big shopping centers nearby, and we had people coming in to buy lunches for the staff instead of coming down to him.
mm,
But a whole stack of things. I'd notice you go in there and he'd be talking to one of his mates, and he would ignore you for maybe a
mm.
minute or two.
Yeah.
Just that kind of stuff. And then the staff would go down and they want a sandwich, and he wouldn't give them lettuce because he didn't want to open up a lettuce, for example. And I said,
Okay.
why don't you go and ask, whether what they want, and take an order. Just walk up. It's only like a minute up the stairs. Oh no, I can't do that. So it's kind of,
Not helping himself.
he was as far as he was concerned, he probably gave great customer service. He just didn't know.
Mm,
And milk bars is a
yeah.
very hard business, of course, but all the same, you could have done a lot better.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that you really have to be open to criticism in a positive way to improve and put yourself out there. Like for myself with this podcast, it's my passion. I love talking to people, meeting new people, and talking these topics. But I'm now going out to people I don't know and trying to build connections. So I'm putting myself out there and being resilient when you get that no or the no comment back, which is why I'm so thankful to have people like yourself on here sharing a bit of your time to be able to help me and my audience.
Mm.
Because it's going out there, testing yourself, pushing yourself, learning more and getting better yourself along the way.
One of the hardest things when you become more successful too is that people tend to be in awe of you to a certain extent,
Mm,
and they're not as honest with their criticism as they might otherwise be.
mm,
I really try. I have a sort of a policy when people come up with an idea, I have to think about 5 times before I say no to it, and because you don't want to come across too strong.
yeah.
It's just like when there's a wonderful book called Creativity Inc., which is about Pixar, and it just shows how they started. Now, Pixar came from George Lucas originally, but the person who funded it to make it work was, of course, Steve Jobs. And one of the things, they had a system where they had this immense creative process where the creatives from each team, not the managers, the creatives would come and they would look at each other's work and they give feedback.
Mm.
And one of the things that Steve wasn't allowed in those meetings, and he knew quite well because he was such a strong character that he would tend to override other people.
Even with a small opinion, it would make a
Yeah.
huge impact.
And they had this series of hits after hit after hit using this process, and then they went in and they took over the Disney animation and did a much better job there.
Mm.
But it's frank feedback that you need so badly, and it's not easy to get. Yeah, especially as you become a sort of a legendary figure in some ways, it can be quite poor.
I can understand and appreciate the dilemma you're in there, particularly when you just, as you called yourself before, average Joe, doing things you love, happen to be successful with it, but I'm still the same person inside that what I was going to uni and trying to change the world with my thoughts and how I was trying to do things back then.
Yeah, I'm often startled at how well it's gone. It's surprising. I'm very aware of my own failings. So Like, I look at all the things I've done wrong and all the things I'm bad at, and you just wonder, how on earth could I achieve anything? It's very odd, actually. But then again, obviously, it just shows you that you can be completely incompetent in most ways. As long as you get one or two things right, you do all right.
And also the resilience. Just keep going.
Yeah, that's right.
Keep
Yeah.
going at it. I
That's
think
something I have by nature. I am just very, very tough-minded. I just don't. I just can't imagine giving up. It would just be like, just couldn't do it any more than I put a gun in my head or something. I just can't imagine it.
Mhm.
I can't imagine stopping either. I mean, I'm 71 years old, and as far as I'm concerned, I've got a life expectancy probably around early to middle 90s, and I don't expect to retire. I really don't. Now, maybe I'll get a bit sane up, but I tell you what, right now I feel fantastic. I feel full of energy and ideas, and I've never felt more alive, more capable in a sense. Very fit, obviously. I run a lot, get a lot of exercise, a lot of time outside. Just,
You're probably a lot fitter than me.
yeah. Well, I am fitter than most people, actually. But I can't remember feeling better than this when I was half my age. I honestly can't. So I don't believe in this retirement thing. I just don't think it's necessary. For me, the hardest time of the year is spring, Christmas, and New Year. When the office shuts down, I find that very difficult. I
Mm.
don't like holidays. I'm notorious for hating holidays.
I
I,
think
I try and keep I try and keep the Sunday clear if I can because of the Sabbath, but it's too difficult. It really is. I just can't.
something tells me workshops are in mind between Christmas and New Year to try and get some new ideas.
Yeah, I'll use it. I'm actually going with
Mm.
my family down to Torquay. I've got there's quite a bunch of us now with all the partners and kids and stuff. So
That'd be good.
it's quite a gathering once a year. So that's good. That
All
gives
the
you something to
kids
do.
and grandkids.
Yeah, I've only got one grandchild in Australia. I've got two in New York, and
That's an
unfortunately they can't
excuse
make
for a
it.
future holiday.
Oh, I hate travel. I hate travel. I would be very happy never to travel half an hour from where I live in my whole life if I could get away with it.
Oh, I love it. One of my final questions for you, it's my second last question, is, or third last actually. What excites you about starting a new business division the most?
Well, it's just fun. It's just fun to grow. It's just exciting to see it. So when we started laundry like 2.5 years ago, it's got over 100 franchisees now. It's amazing to see it. But I have to say that the thing that gives me the most satisfaction is just hearing from a franchisee. One of the things I do once a week is I ring my veterans on their anniversary, like 10, 20 years, and to hear the story of how somebody's life's changed. That's that's unbelievable. That's more meaningful to me than anything else at all. The numbers are just, I mean, it's just a number, really, how many franchises you got. But if you look at somebody, there's a story that a guy I rang last year. He was a 10-year veteran, and I asked him what he was doing before he got into gyms, because I often ask that kind of question. And he said he was a manager with IGA, supermarket manager. So they pay
Yep.
quite well, but working very long hours.
Mm,
And he's about to leave for work very early one morning, and his little son, his 4-year-old, said to him, "Daddy, I wish you could have breakfast with us."
mm,
And he went to work, and he said he was
mm,
tears streaming down his face the whole trip.
no,
Quit his job, got a mowing franchise, and ever since then, he's always been out to have breakfast with his children.
that's gorgeous.
And he's seen them grow up. And he said there's nothing in
Mm,
the world that could have made up for that. Now, his money is actually no better than he was making as a supermarket manager, allowing for inflation, of course, but his lifestyle is different. I said to him, "Do you ever thank your son for that comment?" He said, "Every day."
mm,
That to me is a
yeah.
we've probably made more millionaires than any other company in the country, I reckon, because a lot of our franchisees do very, very well. But
Mm.
the biggest benefit is just having time for family.
That balance is so critical
And
to be able to see them.
I work pretty long hours myself in strange ways. I mean, I, I was I was complaining about my managers. I said to him, "What are you doing answering emails at 2 in the morning?" And he said, "Jim, what are you doing emailing me?"
Replying back.
I was complaining about each other. But the thing of it is, I drive my son to school, my 14-year-old, and I pick him up most days. So I would probably spend, 2.5 hours, 3 hours a week talking to my son, my 14-year-old son. How can you can't do that if you had a normal job.
You can't put a price on that.
Yeah. And I've always had time for my kids growing up. There's a saying I really love called "No other success can compensate for failure in the home." I just don't think money itself is the be all and end all. And I think people have this idea that if you go out and you make more money and you have a better car and a bigger house and more expensive clothing and plush holidays and the rest of it, you'll be happy. But it just doesn't work that way. Money has very limited, especially when you're talking about spending on social comparison. And Theodore Roosevelt said it right. He said, social comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're making more money so you can be better than someone else, that's a terrible way to live. In actual fact, the best way to spend money is on experiences. And the best way of all is on giving it away to a cause that you're involved with. That's the kind of thing that creates happiness. So I live in a reasonably simple life. I was in a supermarket the other day and somebody recognized me and they said, "Oh, I'm surprised you're shopping." As if I should be having minions of servants doing all the jobs for me. I don't. I put the rubbish out and do the washing up and put the laundry through, help my wife with that. And just normal life.
You're keeping active, that's why.
Yeah. It's not good. I think God doesn't give us money just to live a self-indulgent lifestyle. I don't think it's good for you or for your kids. And our kids know that at some theoretical level we're quite rich, but they say, well, where's the mansions? Where's the chauffeurs? Where's all the stuff that you're supposed to have? And they just don't see it.
No, I love that. I absolutely love that. And again, comes back to you're very humble about what you've done. You know it's amazing, but at the same time, you're still awestruck by how amazing it has been.
Yeah, it is fun. It's a great buzz. It's a great buzz. And as your kids grow up, your twins grow up, then no matter how successful you are, you've got to do the same thing. You don't want them to be being spoiling kids is the worst thing. So they've got to learn to be, which they're already doing. You're disciplining them. They've got to learn to help with the household chores and stuff at a very young age.
Exactly. My main mantra is kindness at this age, because they're only 2.5. So be kind, share, help, go help, but be kind when you're doing it. So that's where I'm trying to instill in them at the moment. And it's so cute because I'll have like a bag of nappies and I'll be like, "Oh, can you give this to daddy?" And off they run to do that because they just think helping is just an amazing thing to do.
Wow. Do think of having another one or two. They're really wonderful. No matter what you achieve in life, nothing beats family.
I have to agree. It's just a new level of joy and happiness.
I can't think of a person who's spent their whole life just piling up money and all they've got is no kids, or they've got kids that are complete waste of like someone like John Paul Getty. He used to be the richest man in the world, and kids were rubbish. I mean, just bad. What's the point of a life like that?
Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
I don't envy people who are rich for its own sake. I don't compare. I need to do what I do. Whatever gifts God's given me, use to the best of my ability. That's my thing. I don't want to compare myself with anybody else.
Well, I'm not sure how you go with my last question or second last question I ask all my guests, because you don't like to compare, but there might be something that touches you and makes you feel similar or joy. What brand, any brand in the world, best represents you and why?
I wouldn't talk about a brand so much, but I admire certain individuals. I hugely admire Elon Musk, for example. I mean, the guy's a flaking idiot. He really is, what he's done with Twitter, changing the name and all the rest of the dumb things he's done. But as a technologist, he is incredible, man. What he's done with SpaceX in particular is just beyond belief. And there's I don't know if you've read the Lieberman biography, the new one, which is better than that. Advance. It's a really good book. You should read it. I always give people book recommendations whenever I talk to them. We just talk about how he did it and the way he changed the manufacturing process and the way he looked at every stage of the process. What can I leave out? Can I do this cheaper? Can I get a better thing? That relentless thing. I almost really, really admire him. And I really admire James Dyson. There's a book called Inventor, which is a fantastic book about what he did and how he did it. Just looking at the incredible quality of product. And we use Dyson stuff because it's fantastic. It's the best. It's just better. I think
my Dyson's 25 years old. I've got a very old Dyson vacuum cleaner, one of the originals, and it's still going.
It's just good stuff. It's so beautifully engineered and it's just designed for purpose. I'd never buy anything else but Dyson. It's the best. And I admire another person I greatly admire is Steve Jobs. Not so much because of Microsoft, but because of the Gates Foundation. I
Mm.
mean, he's actually taken all these incredible billions and he's using them to make the maximum benefit to humanity. And the Gates Foundation has saved millions of lives. I really revere that man too. So I have my idols, the people that I admire the most, rather than brands as such.
And it's all the qualities as well that you love too, which is what I really like on how you've described those.
Yeah, yeah.
My very last question, and I promise it is my last. Uh, is there anything final that you'd like to share with the audience about becoming an entrepreneur and the journey?
I'd just say it's a lot of fun. It's really, really, really fun life. I cannot imagine any more exciting, anything more interesting than being an entrepreneur. Look, I don't know if you like computer games. I do, too much.
Yes.
Business is like a really, really complex computer game with infinite number of levels, constant challenges, constant excitement, constant achievements, and you get paid for playing it.
Yeah.
Now, could you imagine a better life than that? And people will say to me, why won't you enjoy your growth? And I said, I'm enjoying what I'm doing so much. I love what I do. I love my life. I love Mondays. I love work. I love the rewards of it. I love the excitement, the challenges. I love the relationships. It's so fun.
Mm.
And what can you say than that? And
Ex-
look, if you look at work as something that you do for the sake of money rather than for the sake of fun, I haven't worked in decades.
mm. No, I think you've found your absolute calling. You're doing it
Yes.
every single day, and you're helping others as well, so that they can live their best too, but
Yes.
not feel like working, feel like they're having fun too.
There's got to be a sense of purpose in what you do, Susan.
Mm.
Now, whether it's family or whether it's business, I feel very strong. See, my franchisees are like my tribe. They're like my extended family. I get very involved with them. I get very upset when something goes wrong for them, and it's a very emotional thing. It's not
Mm.
clinical at all. And honestly speaking, in my mind, money tends to come a long way down the list. You've got to make money, you've got to make profits, and you've got to watch that kind of thing. But it should never be in the front of your mind. You should always be looking first. How can I amaze my customers, or in my
Mm.
case, my franchisees are my primary customers? How can I focus on them?
Yep.
And how can I do that in the best possible way, and then try and do it cost effectively?
Mm-hmm.
That's the basis of it. You never give good service because you make more money out of it. You give good service because that's the kind of person that you are. And in the end, you'll tend to make more money. But most of the best decisions I've made in business were things I made against what I thought was my own self-interest. Like when I started off, I thought that by knocking back franchisees that I wasn't sure of, I would slow my growth. In fact, it was a great decision. It's actually one of the
Mm.
things that have driven our growth very hard because you've got more happy people and more
Yep.
happy clients. But I didn't know that at the time. I just said, I don't want to be responsible for putting a person into business who might fail. And I had a case just some while back where I found out that a woman rang me about a problem with the contract, and I found out that she was buying the franchise. It was a mowing franchise on behalf of her son. And I asked why she was doing that. She said because he can't find a job. And I said to her, we're not going to sell you a franchise. That is completely unconscionable to do it. She was quite upset actually. She said, well, I wish I hadn't run you. And I said, well, it's a jolly good thing you did. But she
Mm.
said, what can I do? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I've got a couple of guys in that area who need workers. They usually do. Go out with
Yeah.
them. Have a go. He was hopeless. He was
Yeah.
absolutely hopeless. Now, that to me, what that franchisor did in putting that person through, posing them, was an absolutely, it was a wrong act. It was an act without conscience to take money from somebody when you must have known that was a failure. Mother buying the business, son can't find a job. No possible way is that going to work out. And I was really, really angry and upset that,
Mm.
that any of my people would do such a thing. And you've got to have that kind of attitude. You've got to care about people you're dealing with.
Exactly. And make sure that they're going to succeed. Otherwise,
Yes,
it's a poor reflection, not just on that small business, but also the bigger brand itself with the halo effect.
that's right. But all the more, the most important thing of all, you do it because because it's what you believe in. If you
Yep.
if you don't really believe in what you're doing, it's just all for money. It's not going to be as powerful as if you do it because you feel.
Yep.
And I've had a case just recently, a couple of franchisees who have got a problem with the region, with the franchisor, not being looked after right. And that disturbs me. And I've been talking to people, and I've been talking to them and emailing back and forth and talking,
To
just doing
understand
all
it.
this stuff. And it's in my mind. It weighs on me because I just can't be happy until we've done something about that. And it's 2 out of 5,000 plus people, but it's emotionally it matters.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of attitude, business isn't about figures and money primarily. It's about people, making them successful, doing something that they want, looking after your stakeholders. And as an owner of the company, you are a stakeholder, yes, but so are your clients, so are your workers, like you mentioned before about employees. And in my case, so very much in my franchisees. They're people who matter just as much. I hate this. I hate the Chicago school idea. The idea that the only responsibility of business is towards the shareholders. That's a
No.
morally bankrupt system. I think it's evil. I really do. There's a wonderful book, The Man Who Broke Capitalism, about Jack Welch, just talking about the damage that guy did to GE, and it's now worth a fraction of its value. And he was one of the most admired leaders of the late 20th century. But you look at what he actually did, and it was appalling. Just sacked people right, left, and centre, shut things down, got rid of stuff because you could get cheaper ones somewhere else. The whole thing, you fire 10% of the department every year, regardless. It was awful what he did.
Unfortunately, I think there's still some businesses with that same
Oh, there is too
ethos.
many. There is too many. One of the things I'm really determined is that after I'm gone, I'm going to set up a structure that makes it impossible for anybody to take over gyms and do what people have done.
Yeah.
Like Retail Food Group, what they did to a lot of franchise brands was just awful. Not so much franchise brands, but franchise people.
Yeah. The
The way
people
they
that
ripped them
had
off
the
and they
jobs, yeah.
treat them so badly. I find that morally offensive. And one of the things, we've got a new department, Jim's Legal, which has just started up
Yes.
too. And one of the things I'd like to do with that is to actually represent franchisees who are being ripped off by these evil franchisors, these money grubbers. There's a lot of really nasty, predatory businessmen going around there. And I get to see more than most people. I'm in touch with the Franchisees Association too. So I hear a lot about what goes on in the industry, and it's awful what goes on. And in all sorts of areas too.
Add builders into that list.
Mm.
Some of the things with builders is just horrible as well. And you don't have much fallback either. It's
Yeah.
just shocking.
There's some very bad people in business out there, I can tell you that.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jim. I've really appreciated it. The biggest things that I've learned is if you want to be an entrepreneur, go for it. If you've got an idea, explore different ideas, find out where there's some gaps, opportunities, and test, and just try, go with it. See if there's some area to improve. Try to think if you can do things faster, more cost efficient. Where are those opportunities? Can IT be your best friend? Because it can help automate a whole pile of the process for you too. Look for good people to support you, whether family, friends, or in the business itself, so that you might not have all the answers, but you've got the people around you can trust and make sure that it's going to build and be strong. But most importantly, be resilient. Know that you just keep going at it, going at it. Don't give up. Keep trying. That's one of the ways that you can actually grow not only as yourself, but also your business too. And really underpin those values that you want your business to strive for. Make sure that it makes sense and that's actually filtered throughout your whole business. So everyone's got those same ethos, that same value, that same care structure within it, so that you're growing together to make something magical together. And as always, I love my metrics. I love customer care and also the customer journey. Make sure they're key to part of your success too, that you've always got your ears open and you're actively listening and doing what you can.
Can I also add to that, Susan, look after yourself in terms of your physical and your mental health. And that means things like being fit,
Yes.
watching your diet, getting exercise. It also means spending time with family, spending time with friends, having social relationships, spending time outside. I think just working all the time is a bad idea. I don't think it's even good for your business.
Agree. You're probably going to be over analyzing things if you're always in there too, and always possibly second guessing yourself a lot as well.
Okay.
Thank you again, Jim. Don't forget to add more to marketing to your podcast lists so that you hear some more fabulous guests in the future. More to marketing.